So, ICE agents decide to arrest a man by the name of Mahmoud Khalil. So, anyone who's been following this probably knows who Mahmoud Khalil is. He was one of the pro Palestinian protesters at Columbia who was leading talks with the university in order to try to get the colleges to divest from Israel. So, I'll start out with this. Anyone who's pro Palestinian, if you're just disagreeing on how Israel is waging their war against Hamas, that's perfectly acceptable, but you should at least be consistent. Are you aware that the new Syrian government is having militants go out and execute Christian minorities? They would say the difference is that the United States actually gives military support to Israel. You know, the Syrian rebels who are in charge of Syria right now were propped up by the United States and the Obama administration. I find it really interesting that these people who are in these protests want to throw the G word around when it comes to Israel, but where are all the university campus protests on what's going on in Syria? Seems kind of selective to me. Maybe it has something to do with the people actually perpetrating the G word, but we're not going to go there. And I'm actually going to come out here and defend this guy because Mahmoud Khalil is someone who holds a green card that affords him a certain amount of rights, one of which includes due process rights. A green card can be revoked, but you actually have to be convicted of a crime. You can't simply have ICE agents go out there and arrest the guy because even if I don't like his speech, we have the First Amendment in this country, and the Supreme Court has ruled campus protests are protected free speech. Because the reason we have the First Amendment, if you say something controversial, your speech should be given extra protection. The KKK is allowed to march in the streets. You know why? Because that's protected free speech. Doesn't mean you have to endorse what they're saying, but you can't silence people who you disagree with because that opens up Pandora's box. And if anyone's cheering on the arrest of this kid, you know this can be turned against your speech as well if we have a different administration in charge. This is for all the people who are free speech absolutists. You had to defend another person's rights who's speaking views you don't agree with. I don't know how anyone who says they're for free speech can endorse what is going on here. And the first rule of free speech, even though I think these people for the most part are useful idiots for Iran, you have every right to be a useful idiot for Iran. You have every right to be a Republican who says, I'd rather be with Russia than Democrats. You have every right to be a useful idiot for Russia. And to see Marco Rubio come out there and just smear this dude, if the ICE agents had something on this guy, I don't know if they actually could prove that he was materially being supported by Iran or somehow linked to Hamas, I think everyone should be for deporting him. But you had to have an immigration judge actually come and look at the evidence. And thankfully, this guy was able to get before a judge and they put a halt on him being deported. So the checks and balances are still there. What's really strange to me is when Benjamin Netanyahu came to the United States, also has an ICJ warrant out for his arrest, I would agree with him that most of these protests are just useful idiots to Iran. And I don't know why he doesn't call attention to the things going on in Syria saying, oh, wait, these people are ethnic minorities being cleansed by the government. Probably because they were all for Assad being thrown out of there because Assad actually gave material support to Hamas. But point out the hypocrisy. You guys want to keep accusing the Israeli government of the G word. I think if the Israeli government actually wanted to commit said G word against the Palestinians, they could do it, or they're just uniquely bad at it. But I don't want people to conflate these protests with someone who's genuinely disagreeing on how Israel is waging their war. I do not think you should use food as a weapon of war. That tactic is illegal under international law, which is what the Israeli government is doing. But the problem is now that I said that, people are like, oh, you just hate Israel and stuff, even though I just went through a whole diatribe on how the pro-Palestinian protesters are a bunch of hypocrites, literally don't care about Assad murdering his own people, and now the new president in charge murdering Christians left and right. So where's the mass protest? I really hope we could just hear the case against this guy. Keep in mind the government has the burden of proof to show that this guy committed a crime. Or this is just the new version of McCarthyism.